Yep, it's me again. They hate me, that's why they give a fuck about me at the same time. As always, JD Miles. The MGTOWs, they love to hate. Even the ones that claim everybody loves to hate them, loves to hate MGTOW. As always, this is why these retarded fucks keep us relevant to this day. And I'm back again. Well, it seems like the Nashville mass shooters manifesto has been leaked. And the far left libtards are now losing their shit over it. I wonder why. Could it be the fact that Audrey Hale's manifesto completely destroys the far left libtards' false sense of innocence because she is a far left liberal? But let the libtards tell you, oh, it's only the far right conservatives who are extremists and terrorists. So what happens when it's the far left who are now looked at as the extremists, as the terrorists now? And believe me, Audrey Hale is not the only one. There are other mass shooters who are also left-wing. We'll get to that later. But before I go any further, shout out to the Black Conservatives Perspective. I'll leave a link to his full video in the description box. Go check that out. But yeah, the manifesto has been leaked, and rightfully so. But here's what I don't get. Matter of fact, here's what the people don't get. Every time there's a mass shooting, the shooter's manifesto be brought to the public within at least 24 hours. But somehow, the Nashville shooter's manifesto has to be kept a secret. Could it be that it doesn't fall within the narrative of these libtard media sites and whatnot? More importantly, why is the family of Audrey Hale want to keep that manifesto a secret? Oh, I forgot. I believe the reason was to prevent copycat mass shooters, right? Which, of course, is just straight up stupid and ridiculous. And by the way, it didn't work, especially when there were other mass shootings that happened after the Nashville shooting, such as the Texas mall shooting, the Club Q shooting, or the most recent one, the Maine mass shooter. Wow, I'm guessing even with the manifesto being a secret, mass shootings still happen. But I digress. Let's get on with this, shall we?
And we won't ignore what our intelligence agencies have determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism. And white supremacists will not have the last word. And this venom and violence cannot be the story of our time. Enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up. To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out.
Okay, Joe Biden. You say it's white supremacy, right? Then please explain what we're about to see next.
This is a News 2 breaking news alert.
Yeah, it's an alert tied to the Covenant School shooting. A talk show host is claiming to have released 3 pages of killer Audrey Hale's writings. Ellie Lynch is at the alert desk with a look at what we have learned.
Well, Neil, Audrey Hale killed 6 people at the Covenant School last March, including 3 children. A legal battle over whether the shooter's writings should be released publicly has been held up in court for months. Now, we've been making calls to people involved in this case to confirm whether the documents released today by that commentator are authentic. Representative Jeremy Faison shared this message online. There was never a good reason to keep that monster's manifesto under lock, which is why I called for its release months ago. After reading this morning, I'm questioning even more why the anti-white racism and anti-Christian bigotry of Audrey Hale was covered up. We need answers, end quote.
White supremacy, huh, Joe Biden? But yet Audrey Hale was anti-white racism, anti-Christian, which is the exact same rhetoric we hear from the far left. But I digress. Let's continue on.
Now, we have a reporter working on this story. You can look for updates on our website. That's WKRN.com and on News 2 starting at 3. Neil?
God damn it.
3. Neil?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a bombshell story. That should be the biggest story in this country, but probably won't get the coverage that it deserves because it does not fit the narrative. And we all know how the mainstream liberal media goes out of their way to not talk about stories that don't fit the narrative. In fact, they cover it up, okay? And there's been a cover up from day one involving the story surrounding the manifesto of the Nashville Covenant School mass shooter.
I mean, straight up, it is. And what's more, it's not even a big secret. It ain't no secret. Each and every mass shooter had their manifesto brought out to the public, but somehow the Nashville school shooter manifesto needs to be held a secret. And the fact that it doesn't fall with the liberal media's narrative further proves that there's an obvious bias. Oh, that's right. The Nashville school shooter was a female, not a man. And what's more, to drive the knife even further, she's a far left liberal, not a far right conservative. This is why the libtards are in their fifis and emotions. This is why the far left libtards are just going straight apeshit. I mean, even the haters are crying and bitching about this. Face facts, you retarded fuck-ass haters. No matter how much whining, crying, bitching, and moaning you do over this shit, is not going to change the fact that, hey, everything y'all tried to make it out to be is straight bullshit now. Because now, the exact opposite is happening. Women could go on mass shootings too, and the far left have their own extremists and terrorists. Oh, that's right. You tell it to them. You tell this shit to them. It rattles their nerves. But let's continue.
Who just happen to also be trans, okay? Usually when mass shootings happen, the manifesto, if there is one, is almost immediately released to the public, especially if the manifesto fits the narrative, aka it helps push the radical leftist agenda when it comes to proving that white supremacy is the biggest threat to this country, okay, or that we need more gun control or whatever, right? When it fits the leftist narrative, they're quick, fast, in a hurry to try to release the manifesto to point fingers and say, look, we're right. This is why our agenda is justified. However, when it doesn't fit the narrative, they cover it up. Okay, the manifesto doesn't get released. The mainstream liberal media doesn't ask questions. They don't press the authorities and the powers that be in regards to why the manifesto is not being released, why we're not getting more answers in regards to why this happened. No. They just move on past it. And that is what happened with...
Exactly. Because the far left libtards want to live in this fantasy world where us far left libtards are innocent. We don't do these type of things. It's the far right conservatives that go on these mass shootings and shit. Get the fuck out of here. And as I stated before, you far left libtards have your fair share of individuals going on mass shootings as well. It's not just the far right. Besides Audrey Hale, let's look at James Holmes, the Aurora Theater shooter. Guess what? He's left-wing. He's left-wing liberal. Or how about the Lakewood mass shooter, McLeod? I can't pronounce his last name right. He's also a left-wing liberal. Frank James, the subway shooter, liberal. The Club Q shooter, also liberal. Oh, but this is the shit that the biased news media outlets won't tell people. Oh, let's just pretend that they're not on the far left. It's always the far right. People is now starting to wake up. People is now starting to wake up and see the bullshit as bias that is staring right dead in their face. And the far left libtards are in full damage mode, complete panic mode. But let's continue on.
The manifesto of the Nashville Covenant School mass shooter. However, the images from this alleged document, right, the alleged manifesto, have been leaked by Steven Crowder. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, the local media is freaking out over this, as they're already in full-blown panic mode about the fact that this has been leaked. Now they're out in full force questioning the authenticity, saying that, hey, we can neither confirm nor deny that this is real. Take a look.
Breaking news this noon hour. A conservative talk show host claims he's released documents related to the Covenant School shooting here in Nashville. We know Steven Crowder is the host of Louder with Crowder. He released 3 photos of writings in notebooks. Crowder claims they're actual images of the shooter's writings. Metro Police say they are aware of the photos. They're receiving calls about them. We talked with police. Right now, they are not confirming the legitimacy of those photos. Now, our chief investigative reporter, always glad to have Jeremy Finley on with us. You've actually been reaching out to people throughout the city all morning. So what have you learned? What are you hearing right now?
So what all of us are doing is we're watching our phones, because Metro Police, when they authenticate information, they put it out on Twitter, what used to be known as Twitter. Right. And I literally just checked moments ago. There's nothing new about this, because there is so much at stake here, right? We've talked so much about the fact that there have been people that have sued to get these writings, and Metro Police has not released those writings, citing those lawsuits, not wanting to release that. We know that they have said, that Chief Drake himself has said, there's so much.
And why they don't want to release it? Could it be that it doesn't fit the far left biased news media's narrative? It doesn't fit the typical mass shooter narrative. The mass shooter is white. He's a male. He's a white supremacist. It doesn't fit their narrative. And what's more is the exact opposite, which is why they're scared to make the manifesto public, even though the countless mass shootings we did have, the manifesto was always brought out within 24 hours. I wonder why, and why this mass shootings manifesto is is so special all of a sudden to the point to where it shouldn't be made public? That's everybody's question right here. But let's continue.
Of it doesn't make any sense. And so we have to be absolutely careful with what we are reporting is absolutely authentic. But we do know that a short while ago, I was able to reach out to the attorney who was representing the family of the parents of the school shooter. He writes, I represent Mr. Ron and Mrs. Norma Hale. We have never seen the manifesto at any time. We're not in a position to authenticate these pieces of paper. We have absolutely not released anything, but we certainly did not release this. It's inappropriate for me to make any further comment about it. So we have been reaching out to all of our sources throughout law enforcement. I've reached out to the mayor's office. The mayor's office punted to the police department. So at this point, there's so much at stake here. If police comes out and they do confirm this, then they are essentially releasing this information that is in this manifesto. But we are not reporting that information yet because it isn't authenticated.
Exactly.
So we've got a lot more confirmation that we need to do.
And of course, we've been hearing from the victims' parents saying they absolutely do not want this to be released.
That's
so
right.
We're going to continue to follow this, stay on top of it, and bring you the very.
And why do they not want it to be released? Oh, I'll tell you why. Because they believe that if they release a manifesto, then this is gonna cause other people to do a copycat mass shootings. But guess what? Look at all the mass shootings that happened after the Nashville mass shooting. So basically, even if they decided not to publish it, guess what? Mass shooting still happens. It's still happening. So I look at that as a bunch of bullshit. More importantly, me personally, I believe there's more to the reason why they don't want that manifesto to become public. No, not because it'll cause people to be not because he'll have copycat mass shooters, because as I stated before, that's a weak excuse. Especially counting all the mass shootings that happened after the Nashville mass shooting. But let's just be upfront and real. The people believe that they're trying to hide something. Yes, they're clearly trying to hide something. I wonder why. But let's continue.
Latest, Chair.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? You have the media in full-blown panic mode, okay, because this document has been released. Police can neither confirm nor deny that it's real. The local police who have access to it, I mean, they can quickly say, hey, it's not real. This is not it. If it's not real, okay, if it's not authentic, but they're not doing that, okay? You already have social media censoring the document. You have journalists like this guy right here, Phil Williams. He's taken to social media, Twitter. He says, multiple sources have told me that the selective leak of 3 pages of the Covenant School shooting manifesto is extremely misleading. People who have read the whole thing say, quote, there's something in there for everybody. Another, quote, she hated everybody. This person then goes on to say, this is why journalism organizations have argued for the release of the shooter's writing, so the conversation can be based on facts, not someone's spin. Okay, so again, they're trying to accuse Steven Crowder or the people that leaked the document of spinning it. Okay, it's a selective leak because apparently there's something in there for everybody and that this person hated everybody. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, right? Because this is important what this guy is saying. But first, we got to talk about how, again, law enforcement, the authorities, the FBI, they're refusing to comment. Okay, they can neither confirm nor deny that the document is real, in which in this document there are claims that there are a number of times that this individual could have been caught, okay, in 2021. This is what they're saying. Now, does that mean that this person was somebody that the feds knew about? We really don't know. But again, what we do know is that this alleged document goes against the mainstream liberal media narrative that, oh, well, guns are the problem, right? We have a gun control problem in this country, right? We need more gun control when what we really have is a left-wing radicalization problem, okay? In the sense that if you look at the manifesto or the alleged manifesto, it was full of what I would describe as hatred against white people, right? The shooter used racial slurs towards white people. They talked about how they didn't like white privilege. They also apparently didn't like the socioeconomic status of the children. Okay, felt that they were, I guess, very well off. Okay, talked about that as well too from a financial perspective.
In other words, the Nashville school shooter was anti-white, and what's even more of a trip. The shooter herself is white. So basically, this is all about self-hatred. She hated herself. She hated her own race. She hated her gender. She hated everything. And I could bet my whole life savings that she was a liberal. I mean, if it was completely false, why is these liberal news outlets is in such a frenzy? Why they having a field day? Why don't they just release the manifesto already and get the shit done with it? The people is like, listen, stop keeping fucking secrets. And why is the Nashville school shooter manifesto has to be kept out the public eye? What makes the Nashville school shooter manifesto so special than any of the other manifestos we read? This is what the people are asking. Hell, this is what I'm asking too. We want answers. We want answers, not lame-ass excuses. But let's continue.
Again, these are all things in rhetoric that comes from the left, okay? Demonizing people based off race, based off religion, okay, because there was some anti-Christian things in there as well too. Skin color, okay, and socioeconomic status is classic left-wing rhetoric, which is why the document is being censored, right? This is why they don't want to release it, because that goes against the narrative that the mainstream liberal media and Democrats put out there, that all of these mass shootings are happening because of white supremacy, right? And white supremacy is the biggest threat to this country, and that there are no radicalized leftists in the country. There are no radicalized left-wing individuals that commit acts of domestic violence. No.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I call bullshit, because there were many mass shooters who were left and far left-wing liberals. But let the libtards tell it to you. Oh, it's only the far right conservatives who go on mass shootings. Get the fuck out of here with that. But yeah, let's continue.
No, it's all racist Trump supporters who, for the most part, are white, right? According to the leftist narrative. A narrative that I would argue, if you believe this alleged manifesto, if it's real, that radicalized this individual to commit this act of violence, right? If you actually read the leaked pages. Now, again, you have some people coming out, the journalists, like I showed you, saying that, well, it's selective, that it doesn't tell the whole story, that there's something in there for everybody. This person hated everybody. Okay, well, if that's the case, then we need the whole thing released, right? They should release the whole thing to prove that, one, either the documents that Steven Crowder released are real or they're not real, okay, one. And then two, to disprove that this person was not radicalized by far left woke ideology, right? Because if there was something in there for everybody, then we should see it. We should see it. Now, again.
Exactly. We should see it. Why are they withholding important details is everybody's question. And the more they keep holding back this important details, the further the point gets proven. They do not want people to know that Audrey Hill was a far left radical liberal. And the more they keep holding that back, the further people will believe that that's exactly what it is. But let's continue.
Well, I also find it be fascinating about how this framing of, well, there was something in there for everybody is being pushed, is that when it came to other mass shootings, like, for example, the Buffalo mass shooting, that's not how these things were framed. When it came to his manifesto, you could argue that you could frame it the same way, that there was something in there for everybody, right? In regards to this guy's political motivations,
And let me go on to say this. What's more, they want to claim that the leaked manifesto is misleading, but I have a counter argument for that. They say that the leaked manifesto is misleading. Well, how do we as a people know that these news outlets ain't misleading people as well? Can they answer that question? Oh, they can't prove or deny it. So if you can't prove or deny it, then isn't these news outlets misleading the people as well? Okay then, let's continue.
Say most likely he was a leftist. Okay, just reading it. Okay, he was a self-admitted left-winger. Okay, who was a white supremacist. However, the media twisted the Buffalo shooter manifesto to try to make him seem like a right-winger, right? He was radicalized by Tucker Carlson, right? This is what they said. When, again, the reality is that this guy was either a left-winger or, at best, right, he was ambiguous in regards to his political ideology, but probably a left-winger. No. The media didn't say, oh, well, there was something in there for everybody. Okay, and that he wasn't overtly right or left. No, he was just right wing. Okay, now when it comes to this situation right here, where you have a leaked manifesto that clearly shows that this shooter may have been radicalized by left wing ideas. Oh, now all of a sudden, well, there was something in there for everybody. You don't understand. This person wasn't just radicalized by left-wing ideas. No, this person didn't like everybody. You don't understand. This was not an act that was caused by the rhetoric coming from the left. Again, it's amazing how that works. It's absolutely amazing how that works. The double standards in this country are in your face, right? They don't care how obvious it.
Then I say, prove it. Prove that what they're saying is true. Bring out the manifesto and stop fucking bullshitting the people. Let's continue.
Is that clearly, based off certain situations, based off certain narratives, the criminal justice system acts a certain way, the liberal media acts a certain way, is covered a certain way, it gets a certain amount of attention. It's right there in your face. Because again, just imagine if this person was a MAGA hat wearing Trump supporter, do you think that there would be a legal battle over the manifesto being released? It would have been released that second, instantly, right? But again, because this shooter didn't fit the narrative, they want to hide the manifesto, okay? And also because the manifesto, in regards to this person's alleged motivations, doesn't fit the narrative either. They're especially making sure that it's not released to the public, right? That you don't see what the motivations were, because the motivations imply that people like Joe Biden, the Joy Reids, CNN, MSNBCs of the world that constantly push this narrative that white supremacy is the biggest threat to this country and that white supremacy is so dangerous and white privilege, far left, woke racial ideology, they got to answer some questions. Because again, I can make
straight up. They're afraid. They're scared as shit that if that manifesto becomes public, then it destroys the far left libtards' false sense of innocence. It destroys the far left's libtards' false sense of, oh, it's just the far right conservative Donald Trump supporters that go on these mass shootings. But as I said, the more they keep withholding the information, the bigger the doubt becomes. They might just go ahead and just say that Audrey Hale is a far left libtard if that's the case. But that's just me. But nevertheless, if you want to watch the full video of the Black Conservative Perspective, the link will be in the description box. Go check him out. Tell him J.U. Mouse sent you. But nevertheless, I said what I had to say. I'm done, and I'm out this bitch. Later.